Hello folks and welcome to Friday's Hi-Fi News etc. And for this time around we have some Hi-Fi news. I think we've got 4 for you. We've got a trivia question which I'll give you in a second, and to finish we have a sort of an addendum for the inner sleeve thing. This is something which is going to run and run by the sound of it. So for the inner sleeves there is a new inner sleeve which the company got in touch after my MoFi clone video, which I think was done on the 11th of June 2023, in case you're watching in the future. And in addition to that, I have a kind of reader's question based on that particular video, or a point this gentleman made, which I will endeavor to address. Anyway, trivia. Now we're going to change the theme. We're going to talk about the English language, which is a rich subject, of course. What I want you to do for me is to spell, and the spelling for you, I want you to spell 3 well-known album titles. Each of these titles has old-fashioned words and or old-fashioned spelling, and so it can trip you up if you're not careful. So these albums are by Nick Drake, by Fairport Convention, and also Genesis, and they followed the brief fashion in the late 60s and the early 70s for LPs with archaically spelled names. Each one of those artists has at least one archaically spelled LP title. Nick Drake, Fairport Convention, and Genesis. Bit different, yes, but even so, hopefully a bit of fun. Please don't Google or anything like that because you'll spoil it. So I will give you the answers, in this case, at the end of this video. For now, Hi-Fi News. And to begin, we're going to talk about a digital audio player from Fiio. I think that's how you pronounce the company name. This one is the M15S. This is a portable device that updates the 3-year-old M15, supporting 64 gigs of onboard memory with an SD slot supporting a further 2 terabytes of external memory. This new unit stuffs a ES9038 Pro DAC chip inside, and that chip can support up to 32-bit 384 kHz PCM or DSD256. To hear that musical output, you can plug headphones into either a single-ended port, 3.5mm, or a choice of 2 balanced ports, 2.5mm or 4.4mm Pentacom. Bluetooth is supported as well via LDAC, hurrah, or LHDC, which you don't see very often. Bluetooth on the Fiio is bi-directional, so you can, for example, add Bluetooth headphones or other hardware. Wi-Fi support also means that AirPlay can be supported too, and DNLA. The new M15S is also Roon ready. There are 5 possible gain levels, so a swathe of headphones and earphones are supported. Based on the Qualcomm Snapdragon 660, the M15S runs on Android 10. It also supports internet services like Tidal, Qobuz, Apple Music, and more. Battery, well, you're looking at about 10.5 hours. Prices, I have 2, either $999 or £979. Link below, as I will do with all of these Hi-Fi News items, back down in the description. Next up, we have an improved headphone amplifier preamp kind of thing called the Soloist 3X GT. This one boasts an improved and more stable power supply. That power supply, which is Class A incidentally, uses V6 Vivid op amps. It's also modular, which means that you can upgrade that power supply in the future. The design is based upon a dual mono layout, pushing out 10 watts per channel, single-ended at 16 ohms. Now, as this box kind of works pretty hard, it has a fan included, although it's a pretty quiet fan running at 25 dBA. That's equivalent to listening to someone breathing at a distance of about a meter, so pretty quiet. To give your headphones that loudspeaker studio mixed presentation, instead of opting for an EQ, which kind of does that kind of thing, kind of doesn't, this particular box does that processing in hardware. So what you get are 3 levels of hardware-based crossed emulation. As I say, just to give that, hey, I'm listening to loudspeakers effect. You can, interestingly, also adjust the volume in each ear speaker separately in case you're listening to your music in a challenging situation, let's say. Price for this, I have a pound price of £2,649. We're going super high-end now so we can see how the other half lives. And we're going to be looking at Halcro amplifiers. Now, the news here is that the UK distributor Sound Design Distribution has signed a deal with Halcro to offer its Eclipse amplifiers to the UK. Well, it basically serves as an excuse to have a bit of a gander. Now, these amplifiers are designed by a physicist. Oh yes, the chap in question, Bruce Candy. Well, he also likes his hi-fi, and he's been on a hi-fi road, so to speak, since about 2001. His challenge, because he likes his amps, was to confront the theoretical lower limits of distortion, and he's gone through 5 generations of product to do that thing. These designs are protected by 5 international patents in areas covering Halcro's unique power factor corrected power supplies. The Eclipse uses substantial shielding and physical separation to isolate the audio circuitry, delivering total harmonic distortion at less than 1,000 parts per billion at full power. Halcro's nearest competitor, apparently, well, that hits a low of 200,000 parts per billion. Halcro has 1,000. Now, as you can see by the images, we have an intriguing design here. These pillars house the power supply and input amplifier section, power amplifier, and output filter, plus large heat sinks. There are 12 MOSFETs providing amplification of around 180 watts into 8 ohms. Interestingly, the power supply has no toroidal transformer. It actually uses switching, not linear, power supplies. Prices, well, they are through the roof, as you might expect. The Eclipse Stereo, which has a powder coat finish, costs £40,000. The Signature is £46,000. A pair of monoblocks, £60,000. The Monitor Signature, a pair, £72,000. If you fancy any of that, description down below will give you a link. And a new pair of speakers from Monitor Audio. Again, we're looking at high-end, we're looking at the hyphen, spelt in Monitor Audio's unique way, of course. This is a new pair of stand-mounted speakers that use the company's M-Array driver setup. M-Array, in fact, comprises a single tweeter surrounded by 6 2-inch mid-range drivers. The tweeter features 3rd generation micro-pleated diaphragm 3, or MPD3, technology, developed in-house by Monitor Audio's acoustic engineers, and the same technology that appears on the range-topping Platinum Series 3G floor standards. The 6 2-inch mid-range drivers feature Rigid Diaphragm Technology 3, or RDT3 for short. That was introduced last year. Now, pillars seem to be a bit of a theme in this video, and the M array is located between Hyphen's twin pillars, each of which houses a pair of 8-inch bass drivers facing inwards in a force-cancelling configuration to reduce vibration. The cabinet is constructed in thermoformed, precision-milled mineral and acrylic stone to create a rigid structure with built-in formed port tubes, strengthening ribs and bracing, with internal and external wall thicknesses of a 1/2 inch up to 1 inch for bracing. Finishes, well, either pure satin white, matte black or matte heritage green. Prices are again through the roof. We're looking at £70,000 for a pair, or €82,500, or if you have some dollars in your back pocket, $92,500. That's your hi-fi news. Let's talk inner sleeves. I want to finish off with a sort of addendum, as I say, to my inner sleeve series of videos. I've recently opened a can of worms on this one. Hey, this subject is doomed to run and run. Now, when I published my video on MoFi inner sleeve clones early in June, a UK outfit called Mint got in touch and offered to send me their inner sleeves. These MoFi clones are apparently exactly the same as those sold by Canada's Vinyl Storage Solutions, and quite a few of you mention the company in the comments to that video. In fact, Mint has a partnership with VSS. So basically, Mint is the UK operation for VSS. So Mint offered the sleeves. I said, sure, and here they are. And they're presented in a rather sturdy box. And you can just see the Mint logo on the end here. If you were buying a set of inner sleeves, I wouldn't expect them to appear in this box, because along with the inner sleeves, I received some outer sleeves, and that might be the subject of videos in the future. I've done an inner sleeve thing. Why not do an outer sleeve thing? Hey, so I've got some outer sleeves all ready to go for this particular video from Mint Vinyl Storage Solutions. So thank you very much to Mint for sending these. Now, the inner sleeves arrived in this kind of foil resealable bag. This one's empty, but if you want to see one full of bulk, this has outer sleeves, so you can sort of see, well, these are the outer sleeves. Won't be exactly the same, of course, but it gives you an idea of what a full bag looks like. Like the other MoFi clones I examined, the Mint sleeves provide the same sort of 3-ply design. The basic quality is very nice indeed. Actually, it's exactly the same as my preferred Big Fudge sleeves that I mentioned in the original video. That is, the Mint sleeves appear to be identical to the Big Fudge sleeves. In fact, I would love to know what the connection is between Big Fudge and VSS and Mint, if there even is a connection. In fact, I have asked Mint that question, but I only asked them, in fact, about an hour before I started this video, so it's a bit unfair to expect an answer so quickly. So if and when I do receive a reply, and hopefully I do, I will pin a comment down below and you can check it out there. Now, as per every other clone, and also of course the original MoFi sleeves, the paper support is not rice paper, despite what Mint says on its website. In fact, it's the usual super thin and cheap printer type paper. Now, if Mint sleeves are basically the same as Vinyl Storage Solutions, then we have, as it were, a 3-way tie for my clone winners. We have VSS and or Mint plus Big Fudge. Now, to finish off this MoFi clone inner sleeve addendum, I received a comment off the back of that original video from someone called bvander131313, who I will call bvander from now on, and I thought I'd address that now. He said, "Good review." Well, thank you very much. But unfortunately, it misses one comparison, and that is the measurements. I bought 2 packs of Big Fudge some time ago when MoFi sleeves were not available in Germany. Some of the sleeves were fine, as you described them in your video, but there were quite some tolerances in size, so much that I actually had to cut the top off a lot of them, as they would not fit into the outer sleeve without getting totally wrinkled and even stuck. The cutting led to the sleeves fitting in the end, but also the paper layer being cut open. At the time, reviews on Amazon mentioned the sleeves being too long as well. Not sure if they have this better under control. Would be nice if you could check as well. Other than that, I would happily have kept using Big Fudge sleeves. Well, bvander, that is a relevant and rather good point you've made. A good question to ask. So I did a quick measure of the featured inner sleeves from that particular video, including the mint sleeves I've just shown you in this video. Now, as vinyl is measured in inches, and we're talking about 12-inch discs here, I will continue with that particular measurement for these sleeves. So, in case there's any kiddywinks from Europe in the audience, an inch is divided into 16 parts, or 16ths. So, 16 of those equals an inch. Now, I found that the inner sleeves from PYP and Vinyl Still, which I'm now reliably informed is actually Vinyl Style, so thank you for the correction, folks. Panma, Heldenklang, Hudson, and the weirdly named Gartop Voice, well, they all spanned 12 inches plus 1.5 16ths. Now, one caveat, they were the measurements from the batches I had. I don't know how consistent the production is, so I don't know how they compare to other batches they may have produced. But all those companies, 12 inches and 1.5 16ths. The original MoFi inners spanned 12 inches and half of 1 16th. The Big Fudge, well, that was somewhere in the middle. 12 inches and a smidgen less than 1 16th. So a bit larger than the MoFi, a bit less than all of those other brands I've just mentioned. The Mint, and hence VSS, Vinyl Storage Solutions, inner sleeves are exactly 12 inches on the nose. Hence, the Mint and VSS inners are snug with no leeway. The Big Fudge offers a tiny amount of wiggle room for the LP, while all of the other clones do introduce a measure of disc movement. It's also possible that those larger clone sleeves may protrude a little bit out of the main card sleeve, but that will depend on the measurements of that card sleeve externally, and let's not forget internally. It's a bit of a minefield, because I find that the design of the main card sleeve does have a big effect on the inner. It affects how far you can push the inner in. It affects, because of that, how much is dangling outside of the actual card sleeve, and so on and so on. Anyway, I hope those measurements help and provide some sort of guidance. And that's it, folks. Before we go, let's have an answer to that trivia question. And for this language-themed trivia question, we're looking at names of LPs, names of albums that have a sort of archaic spelling, shall we say. And what I wanted you to do was to find albums by Nick Drake, Fairport Convention, and Genesis that followed that brief fashion in the late 60s and the early 70s for LPs with archaically spelled names. And the answers are, for Nick Drake, his 1971 release, Brighter Later; for Fairport Convention, Liege and Leaf, released in 1969; and for Genesis, the 1971 release of nursery crime. So be honest, how many did you get? I hope you enjoyed this particular video. I'll be back with next Friday with another one, another trivia question. Before that though, we have the Sunday review, and that's going to be interesting for vinyl fans, I reckon. Anyway, won't say any more than that, won't spoil it. I hope to have your company then, and until then folks, bye bye for now.